Hey everyone, I'm Jake, and this is episode 3 of Jake Makes Game, a little devlog series where I show the development process for my next game. Over the past few weeks, I've had a really rough time actually working on the game. I'd almost burnt myself out with the inventory system, I got stuck into a full-blown weapon customization system, which was what this video was supposed to be about, but as I was working on those systems, I came to the realization that while they'd be cool to have in the game, they weren't super necessary. And this got me thinking. I wasn't really ready to jump right into development. I needed a bit more of a solid plan as what I wanted the game to be. So I spent a bit of time really nailing down what I wanted the game to be and how I wanted it to play. And in the end, in my mind, there was only one solution to this. After all this, I realized that the reason why a lot of my projects fail so early on is I often get bogged down with working on the same thing over and over again. I get to the same point in every project and then jump ship to the next one. For this project, I've decided to use top-down engine to be the main framework for the game. That way, I can get the core game loop and mechanics set and then use the engine as a stepping stone, add my own code and functionality, levels, art, and all that other fun stuff. For those who don't know or haven't heard of it before, top-down engine is a framework which focuses on creating polished top-down shooters, whether it's 2D or 3D. It's packed with so many features. The one I'm most excited for is the AI behavior, as it's something I really struggle with. Now, some people may think that it's cheating or lazy that I've decided to use the asset, when realistically it does a lot of the initial heavy lifting, but I'll still have to take the time to actually learn how the code works, how things are set up and work with each other, as well as spend the time extending the classes to create my own features. There's really no point reinventing the wheel when someone's already been there and done that. I installed the top-down engine into the project, read over the documentation, and then had a playthrough of some of the example scenes and got to work. After a little bit of messing around, this is what I had. It's all still very bare bones, and a lot of the art is still the placeholder art which came with the asset. But I just wanted to have a little experiment and see what I could do with the engine at a base level. I ended up tweaking the weapons to be magazine based, so the player would have to keep a close eye on their ammo resources, as well as played around with some melee weapons too. I still have a lot to learn with how this tool works, but so far it's been pretty simple to wrap my head around. With this new knowledge of the way the weapons worked, I got planning as to what sort of weapons I wanted in the game, both magazine and cooldown based, and got to work creating and tweaking the necessary values. For this, again, I used some free placeholder art by Sire assets for different weapons. These will all eventually be replaced with my own art once I get to that point in development, but for now I'm more concerned with getting them all feeling nice to use. The best way to go about this was to create a base weapon and projectile I could use as a template, and then just create variations, changing their visuals and shooting behaviours. After a few days of solid work, I had different weapons created and working nicely. Obviously, features such as recoil and animations weren't in yet, but that's another thing to implement once I have my own art style defined. While I definitely made some good progress with learning how the engine works, at this point it still wasn't a game. It was more of a sandbox for me to just play around in. The next thing to do on the list was to get back into the level generation. Like I did previously, I made some new rooms and corridors using Edgar Pro and tile maps and got that hooked up to work with the top-down engine. This led me to read through the Edgar Pro documentation, and I found that they have a solid example scene set up on how to achieve similar behaviour to enter the gungeon, including the generation itself, as well as locking rooms when the player enters and unlocking them again once enemies were cleared. I played through the demo scene and then set that up in my project. This took a full day's worth of work to get functional, but I still wasn't happy with it. There was a built-in fog of war effect with Edgar Pro, but I couldn't get that working nicely with the top-down engine's camera, so I decided to look into the engine's room system, which utilises cinemachine zones. I read through the documentation and spent some time working on implementing that with the pre-existing room prefabs from the demo. This also took way longer than anticipated to get working, but I'm super happy with the results. It really felt like over the past month or so, the development process was 2 steps forward, 5 steps back, with working on the systems myself and then just scrapping them to use the top-down engine. But I'd rather be dealing with this now as opposed to later in development, which would probably result in yet another abandoned project, which I don't want. But that's all for this devlog. Any and all feedback would really be appreciated, so if you'd like, share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.